feel like I complain more about my voice on this show or my coughing or any of that type of stuff than I do anywhere else. So I apologize, but I'm going to do it again at the beginning of the show because I've been coughing all morning and I don't know why. I'm not sick. It's just like it's like something's, I don't know.
Everybody's developing. In modern times, everybody gets allergies. Everybody has allergies to everything. There's so many new things to be allergic to.
I don't think I've ever had allergies to anything. Maybe I have and I don't know it, but
that's what I'm saying. They might give you a little bit of tingle.
Well, I know around
Dr.
here,
Jimmy.
everything
That's
is
right.
everything is
Monday
changing right now. Everything is like blooming and stuff. So maybe it is that. Maybe I've just never admitted that I have an allergy. Anyway, how are you guys?
Doing pretty good.
Doing good.
Doing good. What's that telling
You can
about?
really tell by your voices that you're doing well.
No, I'm doing good. I woke up 8 seconds ago.
Oh.
But I'm good.
Cool.
Yeah,
What time did you go to bed?
About 3 o'clock.
Golly. At your age, how do you do Sorry. I have to milk that joke as much as I can. Honestly, though, I don't know how you do that.
I know we're going to talk a little bit about our health and some of our routines today, but if I go to sleep at midnight, I wake up at 5 a.m. So I go to sleep at 3 and I wake up at 8 or 9. See what I'm saying? My body
just all
just
you need.
5 hours, yeah. If I go to sleep at 11, I wake up at 4. If I go to sleep at 10, I wake up at 3.
Now, does it ever have anything to do with, how hard you've worked throughout the day? Like if you were to put in like a full day of manual labor working on, a house or something, I mean, does that change it or is it really just...
every once in a while I get one of those, I need 8 hours.
Yeah.
About once a month I get one of those, I forget to set my alarm, and then I wake up at 10, 10:30. That usually only happens on a weekend because that's when I'm more relaxed. And if I publish a video or if I finish or deliver a project for a client, I have this complete sense of relief, and that usually makes me tired. It's really like emotional,
I get
physical.
that.
Yeah. You feel like you've just handed in a term paper and you know you're going to do good on it, and you're just like, wow. All right, I've done it all. If I get hit by a meteorite right now, everything's going to be okay.
Then you start all over the next day.
Usually Monday, I get the anxiety begins.
So for you, is that you're tired because you did the work, or you have a sense of like lack of responsibility and relief, and now I can let myself sleep a little?
I think it has a lot to do with everything involved. Tension, mental capacity, thinking, problem solving, physical is obviously a big part of it. I think it has a lot to do with everything. For instance, when we do Workbench Con or any other event where we talk to tens and tens of people all day long, maybe even 100 people in a day, at the end of the day, you physically didn't do anything, but you could hit the sack and just be completely spent.
Right.
So it has a lot to do with all those things when we do what we do. Juggling, like it's a lot of hard drive space. It's like when your hard drive just whines all day long. It's like your brain is whining all day long like a hard drive that's trying to process everything. And I think that makes you tired. Makes me tired.
Yeah, sleeping is one of those things that I love and hate. I love sleeping. It's great. I slept in late today, but at the same time, I truly am disappointed and frustrated with the fact that we as humans need as much sleep as we need. It's a huge amount of our day.
Yeah.
Really. You know what I mean? And it's always been frustrating to me that, I can't do anything about it, but that we need so much of an individual day just inactive to be like baseline okay for the rest of the day.
I forever, for many years, many years, 2 decades maybe, my cutoff was 2 a.m. And about 5 months ago, I switched it to midnight. Midnight is I stop what I'm doing and I go to bed. And I get up a little bit earlier, but overall I'm gaining about an hour and a half of sleep each night. And out of all the things that I've done recently, that has probably helped me the most in feeling better.
Do you think is midnight like just a time that you picked, or do you think there's something about
it's
a certain length of
no? I think from what I understand, everybody requires a different amount. So there's no scientific like number that you need 8 hours of sleep. Yeah. But I was getting 6 hours of sleep, and I was like, this is perfectly fine. And then everything that as I've been researching and studying, is like, you need more sleep to help you lose weight, to help you feel better, and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, all right, what happens if I just go to bed at midnight? And I hated it at first because it felt like I was losing 2 hours in my day because I was using those 2 hours to do stuff, either whether it was just like playing around with music or drawing up the next project or editing video. And I hated it at first. And then now it just feels normal. And I think I wake up easier. I wake up a lot easier.
Interesting.
And my most productive hours are in the morning. And waking up easier and getting to work, it just feels better for me.
Yeah, yeah. We moved to going to bed around, and now it's between like 11 and 12. It used to be at 11. We tried to start really heading to bed. But these days, our days are so busy that, sometimes we just need an extra 30, 40 minutes of just Jenny and I hanging out together, even if we're not doing anything together, just being in the same place. And so that time has slipped. But when we did that, it was partially because our kids were younger. They had a bedtime, and so they were always in bed by like 9. And then that gave us a couple of hours there to hang out, and then we could still get a little bit of sleep by 11, Now my kids are huge, and they do things until 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and then they get home, and then they have to shower, and it's like the whole bedtime thing is like a thing of the past now. So it's our time together has gotten pushed back, which is still important to us to have, but it also, like, that sleep that disappears from that extra hour, it's like, come on, kids, go to bed so that, I get my sleep back. But it's a weird thing. It's a strange thing. And I guess it just changes throughout your life, depending on when you need it and what stage of your life you're in, and how early you have to get up for your job and all that type of stuff. I don't know. But you were wanting to talk about health stuff today in general, David.
Yeah.
So what's the impetus for that? Why do you want to talk about
that? Well, I have a hard out this morning at 10:30 because I'm going to get a hearing test. And that is something old people do. And I know that my hearing's not good, and it's mostly from not wearing ear protection, playing guitar. As younger, I have, the ringing, the tinnitus in my ears been there for a long time.
Ooh, that's rough.
And mine's not real bad, but it's always there. Like, I really only notice it when it's really quiet. It doesn't. I know for some people it really messes with their mental health, and I'm not to that point. But I do know that for a long time, if we're out in a noisy environment like a restaurant, there are certain voices that I just cannot hear. So I think my hearing is...
I couldn't get down with that.
Yeah, my hearing within that vocal frequency it has been harmed. And it's funny because guitars are right in that same frequency as the human voice. And so Kelly just got her hearing test a couple months ago, and she's like, I know your hearing's not good. You should go get it checked out. So that's what I'm doing today. And then, last July, I really started to kick it into a morning routine, and it was all by chance. So there's a podcast that I watch. That sounds weird, but I don't listen to podcasts. I watch podcasts on YouTube.
Yeah, a lot of them,
yeah. Called Diary of a CEO. And then one week, he had this glucose expert on there. And I was like, oh, that was interesting. And then like the next week, there was this intermittent fasting expert on there. And for some reason, between those two episodes, I started just doing research. And ever since then, ever since July, I wake up earlier. I go to bed earlier. I wake up earlier. I go for a 30-minute walk. As soon as I wake up, hit the bathroom, drink a glass of water, and then go for a 30-minute walk. And I've been doing that since July. And I've been doing intermittent fasting, so I don't eat past 8. I don't eat before noon. And that helped me lose a bunch of weight. And then it kind of stopped for a while. And then a couple months ago, I decided to skip lunch every, like maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And that has really kicked in my weight loss. And we've got a digital scale and I've been keeping track. And since April 4th of last year to now, I've lost 23.4 pounds. And nice. It's really kicked in over the last couple months too. And once you start feeling different and you can see the numbers change, it just motivates me even more. So I've been really on this kick. And I don't do any kind of crazy physical exercise. I do my walk in the mornings, and it's just a fast-paced walk. And then sometimes I'll walk after dinner, but lately I've been doing like 30 minutes on the elliptical, but not like hardcore, no cardio, just doing stuff. And it really hasn't been that much of a lifestyle change. Not eating past 8 and before noon was a little difficult at first, but now it's just part of my life. I don't think about it. And I still eat like a jerk on the weekends, pizza, wings, and I'm just feeling better. And a couple months ago, I could actually see it for the first time. Like I could see the numbers go down on my app, but I could actually see it in the mirror. And this June, I turned 49. My goal, I told my wife, is like when I turn 50 next year, I'm gonna post a shirtless photo of me on Facebook. Yeah. And I'm gonna show. Yeah, it's like my goal to not be embarrassed about my body anymore. So I've been really on a health kick the last 8 months.
So losing 20 plus pounds there, you've never been, from my perspective, you've never been overweight or anything. So do you think, like, what is the threshold? Is what you've currently lost kind of your threshold for it's enough, I'm comfortable, or is there more, or what's the kind of plan there?
So my dad was a really skinny guy, and I remember my first driver's license at 17 or 18, my weight on there was 135. And I'm looking at my app now. April 2nd, 2023, I was 172. It's somewhere around there. And that was one of the higher points of my life. And I could see it like on camera. I'm always telling Daniel, don't film me from the side. Always film me from the front, because from the side is when I can see my weight. And I'm down to 152.6. And I don't think I've been at this weight since the 90s. And the goal is like, it's just a number. It's just a number. But the goal is, if I can get to the 140s, which I'm almost there, I should be able to get there in the next couple weeks. I'm going to start working on muscle. So I might be gaining some of that back, but from what I understand, as you get older, it's more important to work on muscle than it is cardio, because that muscle is going to help you maintain posture and energy and everything. So I think this summer I'm going to just try to bulk up a little bit.
You got to get ready for that nudie.
Yeah, you got to get ready for that nudie.
Yeah. I've been doing the bike. I've been doing really good on the bike. I've been challenging myself because I got to a plateau on the bike, which became boring to me. So now what I do is I turn on the lesson with whomever, and I set usually a 30-minute. And now when you ride the bike, it gives you an output level. And I never really understood the output level. All I noticed is that everybody's output was much higher than mine, and I was doing the lesson. I was like, how could their output? I'm staying right in the range, usually just a little bit ahead of the range that they suggest, and my output ends up being, for a 30-minute ride, the Peloton users will understand this. At a 30-minute ride, my output was like 230, 240. And I see other outputs at like 300 and change. And I'm like, how can I get my output to there? I'm doing exactly what the lesson plan it calls for, whatever the instructor is telling me to do. And one day I just said, I was actually listening to a good podcast. I didn't want to turn it off. I was like, you know what? There's at least 35, 40 minutes left in this podcast. I'll just turn the person down and just ignore the lesson and just go full whatever I could handle from start. And if I need a break, I'll stop. And, you know, I set goals every 10 minutes. So if I need one sooner, I'll stop sooner. But I'll do the first 10 minutes, slow down a little bit, have a drink of water, and then crank back up and go to the next 10 minutes. And I started doing that, and it made it more exciting for me, but now I'm more goal-oriented because then I was able to far exceed my best. Now my best so far is about 330, somewhere around there. It's all recorded in the app. And so that's my highest output. So now a regular output for me when I get on the bike is 300. That's like that is my new average, is a 300, where it's really hard to get to. That's me cranking at a very high resistance nearly the entire time versus what the instructor calls for. And now I can see how other people have these numbers. You just have to crank as hard as possible the entire time. Now people are probably saying, this is bad for you. I very rarely discuss my routines and my diet plans with anybody because no matter who you talk to, you go, oh, that's the worst for you. You know, we talked about this in the past where I said to my I don't do a therapist anymore, but I said to him at one point, I was like, yeah, I should eat bananas. But you got to be careful. Bananas have potassium in them. I'm like, okay. Because he thought I was going to eat like 30 bananas a day. I don't know what I don't even know what he thought. But there's an example of, and then don't ever tell anybody you're fasting because they're like, you're going to die. You don't understand. It's really bad for you. You know, what are you listening to Joe Rogan? I'm like, no, and I'm fine. And I shouldn't have said anything. I'm going to never tell anybody anything. But here we are, was bearing our souls. So a couple of weeks ago, I made a decision. Actually, it was when we were at Workbench Con, so it wasn't that long ago. We were eating fried food, and I just said, this is all I tend to eat lately is horrible fried food. I eat my French fries, everybody's French fries on the table, because everyone seems to know something I don't seem to care about. So at Workbench Con, I said, I'm not going to eat hamburgers anymore. I'm not going to eat French fries. I'm not going to eat fried food. So I'm going to take a break from fried food, taking a break from sugar. So in the last couple of weeks, I'm definitely feeling overweight. I'm about 210 plus, possibly. I don't weigh myself that often, but last time I weighed myself, I was about 212, and I would like to get down to about 180. My thinnest I've been as an adult was 12 years ago. I was 175. It was like the year before I started YouTube. I was 170, 180 in that range, and that was right when I was running a lot, and I stopped running because my knees bothered me. And you slowly put on weight and you get back into the habits of eating crap. And so at Workbench Con every night, we're eating fried chicken fingers and French fries. And I said, this is it. I looked at Rachel, who was with me. I said, I'm not doing this. I'm going to take a break from all this. And sugar, we would tend to have a dessert a lot. And that's it. No desserts. I'm just taking a break from all of it, just calling cold turkey. And I don't want to describe what I eat because I don't want to get emails saying that's the worst thing you could ever eat. I don't want to hear that.
Is it all bananas? I bet
I'm just eating bananas. That's it. I'm eating banana souffles.
Are you crazy?
You know how much potassium is in that?
Oh my goodness.
What is potassium?
I'm just eating potassium burgers. That's all I have for dinner now.
No, so I'm cutting out I eat a lot of bread, I eat a lot of fried food, and I eat a lot of French fries, and all that's going. And
that's good.
I'm just doing my best to eat a lot of protein, whatever that ends up being, protein. I'm having some help from Rachel. She's pretty good with all this. And it's just another, you just got to keep on it. You got to make decisions. You got to make the right decisions. You know, every single time I eat like potato chips or French fries or this or that, I'm like, oh, just this one time. And I have to stop doing that. I have to just be like, no time. Nope, not this. No. Yeah. And sometimes somebody will bring food into the house. I have a lot of guests here. I'll just feed it right to the birds. I'll take out the bag of chips and just dump it on the ground and let the birds eat it. You know, I have to do that. I have really poor impulse control when it comes to these salty, fried, bad-for-you foods. I have really bad impulse control. And I am fasting a little bit more than I ordinarily would. Definitely not eating past 8, which is something I stopped doing right when I got back from Workbench Con. I would do the bike at midnight, come in at like midnight 30 or 1 a.m. and eat a sandwich because I was just like so worked up and that's another reason why I go to sleep at 3 a.m. Because I'm like, oh, I just ate. I can't go to bed now. I got to go. Oh, you know what? Let me go assemble a machine. And so I go back outside and do something. But at my age, I'm going to be 57 in April. I think it's obviously important to not bulk up. It's just everybody's overweight. Everywhere you look, everybody's overweight. It's really an epidemic. It's crazy. Yeah, all the food that we buy is horrible. I'm no organic advocate, but I remember years ago a friend of mine. He's a very, very well fit, very fit, very he really takes care of himself. I'll put it to you that way. From California, he came and stayed with me when we were in New York. We walked into a deli in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. It was like midnight. He goes, I'm starving. Let's go in the deli. We walked in the deli. He looked around and he goes, there's nothing in here I could eat. And I said to myself, what is he talking about? There's so much he could eat. There's wingdings and ho-hos and chips. I'm joking at that point. But I looked and I was so impressed by the fact that there's nothing in here that he eats. And it took me years to really understand what that meant. And now when I do the same thing, I'll walk through Stewart's up in upstate New York and I will look around. I'm like, the only thing that's like somewhat safe is like these salami slices, like in a little tray that they sell now these days. And it's really true. There's
processed meats, dude. Come on.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's the only thing that feels safe, honestly. You know, it's like a little cheese stick or something. It's the only thing that feels safe versus everything else that's available in the store. Yeah. And then you look online and everybody's, 50 pounds overweight.
Well, I think one of the things in that case, like one of the things that can be really helpful, which I'm not good at, I know that it's a thing, but is if you know that you're going to have a tendency to snack or to, like, that you're going to be hungry at this time of the day or when you're in this place or whatever, if you can plan ahead to have a good alternative for those situations, a healthy alternative, then you're less likely to go for the bag of chips. You're less likely to go for the, cheese and crackers or whatever, which is what I do. It's easy for me to have peanut butter crackers in a little bag that I can just grab out of the box because I know that I want a snack at like 4 o'clock. But if we can instead have a lot of fruit sitting on the table next to where I would be, then I'll grab an apple or I'll grab something to fill me up in a healthy way until the next actual meal.
I've been cooking for myself, and I've been preparing meals, and I leave them in the fridge. Mostly just grilled chicken and rice with a little salt and pepper, and that's it. And that's what I basically have been eating. But having alternatives around for when you are snacky, I think is a healthy alternative there. Yeah.
Not having to go get something, removing friction from like having the healthy choice is really hard to do because it takes planning, takes preparation, but going for fruits and vegetables and stuff as filler rather than chips and carbs and fried and that stuff. It adds up over time. We've gotten really bad about it lately, eating fried stuff. I'm not blaming my kids in any way whatsoever, but my kids are very busy. All 4 kids are doing multiple things all the time. I was looking at our calendar this morning, and it would blow your mind what our calendar looks like, our family calendar. And we rely on it so that we know where everybody has to be at what time and everything. But because of that, we don't get to eat dinner together as much as we have always prioritized. Jenny has always cooked a lot for us. She's always cooked very healthy things. And now it's harder to get everybody in the same place to have a meal together and to have time before that for either of us to cook. She does like 99% of the cooking, but for either of us to prepare anything. And so we've ended up doing a lot of fast food, and it's like after multiple soccer practices. So 8:30 and 9 o'clock at night, it's like, well, we got to pick up chicken fingers for everybody so that we can at least eat something and they can get a little bit of protein. But I'm not the one doing soccer practices. I'm out, I'm like working all day and then watching them play a game. And then I eat chicken fingers at 9 o'clock at night or whatever. And so, they're young, their metabolism doesn't care. They are working their butts off. They do like a soccer practice and then a track meet in the same night and stuff. So it's like they can eat anything they want to at this point. But we are left eating that same stuff oftentimes. And that's where I need to be better about deciding that I don't have to, if we're not going to be eating together as a family, which is the goal on a certain night, then I don't need to wait to eat crap food with them at the end of the night. I should eat something healthier earlier so that it's, in my best interest. And then we still try to cook and stuff as often as we can, but it's just gotten a lot harder because of schedules, because of getting everybody everywhere all the time. But man, I think we've eaten more chicken fingers and wings and pizza in the last year than the rest of my life put together. It's crazy.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's not
American
really
meal.
something that we want. It's just kind of the way it's worked out,
Food is so convenient. It is so cheap and is so convenient now. And at least the bad food. The bad food is cheap and convenient. And it's just easy to get chicken fingers. About a month ago, I got my general blood work back, and there was high cholesterol. And regular blood work doesn't tell the full story, so we're going to do it like an advanced lipid profile test here real soon. But I got that news, and then my cousin Tony, he's the one that got me into go-karting. I raced go-karts with him on the weekends. His wife suddenly passed away from a massive heart attack, and this was just about a month ago, and she's a few years younger than me, and it was just
scary.
Kind of a wake-up call. Yeah, like people my age don't have heart attacks and die, and then I look at my age, I'm like, well, I am going to be 49 real soon. So that's been a wake-up call. So I've been really trying hard to reduce like seed oils, sugars, and processed carbs, which those are my 3 favorite things. But I'm trying to cook for myself a little bit more and bring in more stupid vegetables and get rid of the seed oils, and sugar is an easy thing to not consume. Just stay away from the snacks and all the breads.
Yeah.
But it's hard because if I don't have any carbs or sugar in a day, all I think about is I just think about food all the time. And so I'm trying to get past that point where I stop thinking about food all the time.
I do think, I know nothing about all this stuff, so there's my disclaimer. But I do think that, all of us have to take drastic measures at different points in our lives to like change our behavior and to set up new habits and stuff. So we have to go cold turkey on something for a while so that we learn to live without it. But I do think that there's something to be said for after you've done that initial, like, I'm going to make a big change thing, and then that change has become sustainable. There's something to be said for finding a middle ground, moderation in all things, moderation in the things that can allow you to be healthy and enjoy, because some people will go really hard on the no sugar thing. My wife included, like she's done this many times. She'll go super hard on the no sugar for like years at a time. And that's healthy, yes. But then there's a certain amount of enjoyment that you get out of eating things that you really enjoy.
Yeah.
And if you do that on an occasional basis rather than a regular basis, it's not really that unhealthy. It doesn't accumulate on you and in you. So I think that's one of the hardest things for me, and I think for most people, is to make a change, but then figure out how to kind of reintroduce moderation around certain things and not let it swing too far the other direction.
Yeah.
Not fall all the way back into ice cream every night or whatever. But, that, like you were talking about changing, you're losing weight now, but then at some point you're going to start working towards building muscle. And when you start to do that, your body requires a different set of food. So you're going to have to change the way that you eat once you start getting jacked, once you start bulking up.
Swole.
You have to buy new shirts and all that stuff because your chest is going to get so big. But
No
you do have to
sleeves.
change your input. All the sleeves are gone. You do have to change your input to feed the muscles so that they can be growing correctly. And as you start to build back something like that, that's the time where you can start to test out moderation on certain things. Not that you need to. I'm just saying, like, a transition like that is a way for you to work yourself back into, or if you take on a new sport or a new exercise that is adding output to your body, that gives you an opportunity to gauge new input, new foods, going back to something that you like once a month or whatever. So, but I bring up my wife with the no sugar thing because she's healthy. She's always been very active. She cares a lot about the types of foods, not just the foods, but the type of, what they are, where they came from, how they're prepared, that type of stuff. And so many times with her gym, at the beginning of the year, I think they usually do it in January. They'll do this. Have you ever heard of Whole30?
Mm-hmm. Kelly did it a year ago.
So she's done it a few times, and it's a 30-day challenge of eating whole foods. Now, I don't really know a lot about this because I don't really do it, but it's basically unmixed processed foods. It's whole meats, whole vegetables, whole things like that, and then you cook them in simple ways so that you're maintaining what the food actually is, and you're not adding a whole bunch of extra stuff to it. But it is a way, and the reason they do it for 30 days, I think, is to kind of reset your habits around how I prepare meat, how I prepare vegetables, how much of each of those things I need. And every time she does this, she's done it many times, every time she does this, she loses weight, she feels better, she thinks clearer, and it's a 30-day thing. And at the end of that, she decides, okay, now that I'm done with the challenge part of it, she loves challenges, I'm going to decide what to keep and what to continue on. And so she'll introduce things back in, but then she'll stick with no sugar for 6 months, or she'll stick with, I'm going to eat this amount of vegetables every day. And even having some sort of a lingering change after that 30 days, it's something she carries on, and it helps her make choices around food, around the other stuff, that's not changing. So even finding something like that, there's many things like that. Finding something like that to give you some guidelines for a set period of time. If this is a change somebody's trying to make, having a challenge or having a guideline over a month, or, and there's another one that's like Hard 75, and it's a whole different thing. It's a food thing and an exercise thing together. I know a few people who have done that, and it's really changed how their bodies are. But anyway, my point is, if you want to get healthy, just hoping that you'll do it and setting some really loose guidelines for yourself is probably not going to do it. Having a plan, having a challenge is a good step.
A great book about habits is called Atomic Habits by James Clear. I highly suggest reading that book. It's how to form new habits, how to get rid of old habits, and it's a famous book. And this guy I think he's got some TED Talks, or there's also stuff on YouTube you can watch, but the book is phenomenal. I have no hard set rules, because I found if there's a certain diet that I must stick to, and when I break it, I feel like, well, that's over with. I don't keep track of streaks. There was a couple years ago, I had this streak of like 150 days of 30-minute workouts. And one day I just forgot to work out. And then I was like, man, there goes my streak. And then I just never got back on it. And so streaks and hard rules do not work for me. So, maybe this weekend I'll have a milkshake. It doesn't matter. I want to enjoy my life. And I'm doing the fasting, and for some people, having coffee most people can drink coffee in the morning and it doesn't break their fast. There's a small group of people where it does bring up their glucose levels and it breaks the fast. And I was just like, if coffee breaks my fast, then maybe fasting's not for me, because I enjoy my coffee so much in the morning. Like I want to enjoy life. I want to live longer, and I want to feel better about myself, but I also want to enjoy the good things like pizza and chicken tenders and coffee and milkshakes.
By the way, do you remember when all this phony sweetener was it's just a suggestion at the coffee counters all around the world, except for like Starbucks. But if you get gas station coffee, you put the sweetener in. It basically turns your coffee into a milkshake,
right?
A hot milkshake. I'm cutting that out as well because starts creeping in. It starts creeping in. I'm just either using no sweetener. I'm sorry, no milk or regular milk. Nothing or just regular milk. Yeah. That's it.
Totally black.
Because everything else is because for the most part that adds a ton of horrible chemicals. It tastes great, which is why we become addicted to it, why I've become addicted to it. But you just got to cut it out. Because it used to be like, one pump is enough, and then it's like 2 pumps, and all of a sudden you break open the lid and you just pour it in, and it's just
you pour a little bit of coffee
cake stands of
milk container.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know the instinct. I don't even know what it's called, carnation or something. All I know is that if it gets on your hands, it's like motor oil. You have to go and scrub it off. Yikes. You imagine then you're drinking it. You're putting it in your coffee and.
I was telling somebody a couple of days ago, I don't remember how we got to talking about it, but I stopped drinking sodas probably 12 or 13 years ago.
No soda ever. If anything, I drink
at the same time, I cut out sugar in my coffee. It was
mostly water.
I got rid of sodas because of how much sugar was in them. And at the time, I was training for marathons, so I was like, I could eat and drink anything I wanted to, and it didn't matter, because it was going to run it off.
If when you go back, when they go back in the downfall of the United States, it's Coca-Cola.
I mean, yeah,
it's the beginning of the turn of the century when they're like, oh, you love sugar, just drink it. It goes into your body easier. And now here it is, 100 and something years later, it's still the one thing most people reach for in this country.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's Coca-Cola and all the variants.
When I decided to cut out sodas and I cut out sugar in my coffee at the same time, it was like a cold turkey thing because I had so much of it. I knew that there wouldn't be like a moderation point in that, and so I cut it out. And honestly, that was one of the biggest changes in my health of my entire life, was just dropping sodas in sugar and coffee. Because it's an easy thing to avoid. It's, you can have, if you need something sweet, you can have an actual juice, not like a sugar added juice, but you can have, pure orange juice or pure apple juice, and you get that like, ooh, sweet. But it's not going to be like a Coke or like a Mountain Dew, which I would always go for Mountain Dew, so it was like double bad. But
it's like drinking radiator fluid.
Yeah. But cutting those things out was probably the biggest weight loss I've ever had, and just the biggest long-term change. And it's something that I don't regret. I mean, occasionally I will like have a root beer because I really like root beer, but it's, low sugar. It's no caffeine usually. But that was a really big change for me.
Once in a while, I'll crave a Coke or a ginger ale, and I will have Coke or a ginger ale with dinner, maybe once every couple of weeks. But once in a while, I'll crave a Coke and I'll buy a bottle, and I drink it like you would drink a whiskey. I'll open the cap, take a hit, put the cap back on, and a bottle, like a 16-ounce bottle of Coke, will last in my refrigerator for like a week.
Yuck.
Just one 16-ounce bottle. No, but I'm saying, I know. But by the time, sometimes it goes bad before I finish it, I just throw it away.
Yeah.
And that's the point. So that's how I moderate when I drink Coke. It's like, because as an American, I need that hit. I need that rush of that like sweet taste. So I'll buy a bottle, like I'm buying a bottle of whiskey, and I'll just hit on it, keep it in the door of the refrigerator, and I'll hit on it. And it lasts a long time. Versus just drinking like 5 of those a day, which is what most people do, or a lot of people do. It'll take me 5 or 6 days to drink one 16-ounce bottle of Coke. Yeah.
So as we
habits
get older,
like that, just try to keep.
I'm curious. Is there anything? I know we're talking about what we're doing right now, but let's say 2 years from now, is there anything that you have? David, you said you wanted to start like building muscle up. Is there another goal? Is there a thing that you're working towards, long-term health, betterness? Like, do you have a goal towards something?
I deal with a lot of just like annoying joint pain. And a few years ago, the doctor's like, yeah, it's probably just arthritis. We can We can do an X-ray if you want. And I was like, I don't want to. I'm getting old. And I've come to realize that not all of it might be arthritis. Some of it just might be inflammation, because I would eat so much inflammatory foods like breads and sugars. And so the goal is to just feel better, just be able to pick something up off the floor without making a noise, like, ugh, you know? So there's no, just general wellness in feeling better. And that's really the only goal.
What about you, Jimmy?
I just like to just be a little bit more spry. If I could ever get down to 180, which seems like an unobtainable goal. But if I'm going to try and stay dedicated to no fried foods, no French fries, no hamburgers, no pizza, which is kind of my staples, no snacking, like French fry, like chips and all that other crap. My goal is to just cut those out completely. The way I have alcohol, cigarettes, and I when it comes to drugs and cigarettes and edibles, I take nothing. Like, I've been 100% straight X is what we called it in the 80s. Straight edge. I'm 100% straight edge. Like, I'll take an aspirin maybe once in a year if I'm having a bad headache. Beyond that, I take no prescription drugs. I take no drugs whatsoever. I don't eat edibles. I don't inhale. Now, like, I got out of my car the other day, and right next to my car, I'm like, oh, somebody lost their electronics. And I pick it up, and it's something to smoke marijuana through. And then I got out of my car a couple of spots later, and a couple of days later somewhere else at a rest stop, and there was another one. So now we're smoking calculators and remote controls and just discarding them.
Yeah.
It's like, where this society is like going to cannibalize itself. It's crazy. So I don't do any of that stuff. So the goal is, the way I am so completely free of alcohol and cigarettes and marijuana and everything else that everybody seems to crutch on, I'd like to not crutch on snacks. I'd like to not crutch on French fries and fried food. And, I just don't want to crutch on any of that. That's like my long-term goals, is to like get rid of all those emotional satisfying food. I'm an emotional eater. I'm sure of it. I'm sure I eat all this stuff because I have, unresolved issues elsewhere. And then every once in a while, Rachel reminds me, you've been through a lot in the last couple of years, and obviously I have. And, so I'm an emotional eater. I really am. I'm a comfort. I eat for comfort. Yes. It's all the problems that come through just snacking and eating late and being like, oh, there's my favorite gas station. Let me stop and get that crappy sandwich that they sell because I know it tastes good.
Yeah.
And, my trainer taught me years ago, I go through bouts of being in good behavior and then it just devolves away. But when I was with a trainer in 2001, Arnold is a great guy. He taught me a lot of lessons. He goes, you want to eat that snack? He goes, go look at it. Stop at the store, go look at it, touch it, look at it, and then hang it back up and leave. He goes, that'll satisfy your need. And he would tell me that all the time. He'd be like, you want, he goes, you want a peanut? He goes, you want a handful of peanuts? He goes, eat one peanut or just smell it and then put it back. He goes, if you're in someone's house and there's like a bowl of snacks, he goes, just smell it. He goes, and then just walk away from it. He goes, you're stronger than that. And he goes, this way you get and every once in a while, when I'm not this bad of an alcoholic, I like the smell of whiskey. When someone opens a bottle of whiskey, I go, let me smell it. So I smell like, no. I'm not going to drink it. I just want to smell it. And I hand it back.
Man, I love the smell of whiskey. So
I love the smell of whiskey. It's like smelling gasoline.
Yeah. I probably drink too much whiskey. I stopped drinking sodas like probably 7, 8 years ago, and then I stopped drinking beers a couple years ago. I'll have a handful of beers throughout the year, but mostly it's whiskey, like on the weekends. And I realized I should cut back and drink a little bit less. But when I pour a glass of whiskey, I just sit there with it by my face and just smell it for a minute or two. I just love that smell. It's like brewing coffee in the morning. It's that same satisfying smell.
Yeah.
Or gasoline for some people.
Brewing gasoline.
Yeah, brewing gasoline.
So long-term goals is to just kind of get rid of some of the crutches that I have. You know, now instead of reaching for beer at the end of every day, I'll like go for a bag of potato chips and be like, "Wow, you know, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but let me just have another handful. You know, I'll walk past the bag, one more handful. That's why I just feed it to the birds now when it gets left here. Throw it out to the birds. I'll eat it as an egg in a couple days.
That's a cool perspective.
Yeah,
it's pretty funny.
And
I think for me, I think I've decided, maybe not decided, but I've gone more towards, I'm probably not going to run any more marathons in my life. I've kind of done that really intensive, long preparation thing. So running now for me has, I don't know, I do less of it these days, and I don't really want to do less of it, but I'm also not motivated to try to train for a big race anymore. And so I'm trying to find something that is sustainable exercise-wise from now on, like into my 70s, you know, and it could be running. I do know runners that run into their 70s and 80s, but I don't know that I want it to be that. So I'm trying to find something else that, you know, maybe it's biking, although I've never done a whole lot of that. I really would like to start climbing again because it's a full body workout that you can do at your own pace. And I think the biggest thing that I want to figure out is just how to make my back stronger. Because as a relatively young person, my back is problematic all the time. If it's not one corner, it's the other corner of my back hurting. So trying to figure out how to, make it stronger so that it's not a problem for me, every 6 months or something for the rest of my life. And I've started doing yoga. I'm working on, flexibility, and there's a little bit of strength in that, but I've got a friend who lifts a lot, and he wants to come over and kind of guide me through safely learning to lift to strengthen my back. And so it's like, I'm not like David. I don't want to get jacked. Just kidding. But I do want to be stronger long term. I want to be able to be useful. And, when my grandkids are running around, I want to be able to run around with them and be active and stuff like that. So I'm really trying to figure out now, rather than just how do I do this next thing, what is an exercise or a habit or a sport that I can get into that's going to be a little bit more holistic for my body and is going to carry me into the next 20, 30 years, something I can maintain at different levels, obviously. But, and then, the shorter term thing is to get out of eating as much fast food and that type of stuff that we eat right now. I do think that is pretty seasonal to our life right now. So I'm not sure what else I can do about it at the moment, but, I don't think that'll last forever. So that's where I'm at. Yeah. But David, you were starting to say something.
When you work the same job for 10 years and you're doing the same thing, motivation can sometimes go away. And I can feel that. I'm like, I got to start another project. I got to do all this stuff to prep for the next thing I want to make. And I think a lot of that lack of motivation just comes from how I feel and mental health and physical health. And I've been also forcing myself to work a little bit less. I have to work a little bit less since I'm going to bed 2 hours earlier. And I do feel a slight change in motivation and excitement in going out into the shop. And it all just translates into just feeling better.
Yeah, I can see that. I know that the opposite has been kind of true. Well, not the opposite. Related to that, I went to move a bunch of stuff around in the shop yesterday because it needs a pretty big overhaul. And a lot of the things that need to be moved, there's a lot of tables and stuff that I just need to break down and get rid of. And there's like old projects left. And there's just a bunch of stuff that needs to be thrown away or needs to be taken to the recycler, metal recycler, or whatever. And so I started to do that stuff yesterday. And I didn't run yesterday because my back was hurting, my lower back. And I'll give it a day. I'll rest it, try to like let it loosen up. And then I looked at this room full of stuff that needs to be removed. And removing that stuff will make the room better and more organized and start this process of rebuilding the shop and everything. But my back hurt. And I was like, if I move this stuff, my back's going to be worse tomorrow, which means I won't run again tomorrow, which means I won't feel like doing, and it was like, there's got to be a trade-off here between how I feel and what my back is doing and what my body is telling me to do, rest or work or whatever, and the things that I actually have to do to stay motivated, like you're talking about, to enjoy the space, to make the space better, to do the work that I want to do. And I think, figuring out how to strengthen my back would solve some of that, because then I wouldn't, like, that factor wouldn't be involved. Mm-hmm. The motivation would be about, do I actually have the motivation, not do I have the motivation and strength, at any given time. But that kind of hit me yesterday. It was the first time that I started to like pause on work stuff. Not the first time, but I was pausing potential work for oldness, and I really didn't like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to deal with that. But I mean, that's something I guess everybody has to deal with in different ways. But
I apologize. I don't know if you can hear the tornado sirens going off.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What is that? Yeah.
That's I don't know why they're going off, but I'm not worried about it.
Well, nope, not.
Yeah.
You saw the tornado went through central Ohio a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
We have tornado sirens that go off like once a week. They test them every time.
It's usually on Friday at noons for us. It is not Friday at noon. I'm probably okay.
I'm going to check the weather while you guys talk.
So,
in your area.
Yeah. I think the big disclaimer here is don't take advice from any of us. The human body is crazy complicated, and every single person is different. Some people can smoke cigars, drink whiskey, and eat McDonald's every day and live to be 100 years old, and some people can't. And just so don't take any advice from 3 yahoos from the internet.
So take medical advice.
Yeah. Woodworking advice. Go to makesomething.com.
I mean, I do think we have life experience. Everybody has life experience, and sharing your life experience can act as advice. My advice that's non-medical would be, if you're not feeling like you want to feel, start making a plan to change that, whether that's how you spend your time or how you physically need to feel good, to do the work that you need to do, to last for the people you need to last for. I think it's really easy to feel at any point like you're too far gone, like your weight is too far this way, or your strength is too far this way or whatever. And I don't think that any of us are too far gone to put some work into to at least improve. Becoming a bodybuilder after a life of not living that way would be a lot of work, but I do think that we can all improve, the state of things for ourselves. I saw an Instagram video the other day, and it was this lady who was overweight, and she was talking to the camera about how she had been working really hard. She'd been going to this gym for 6 months or so. And she always felt out of place in there because everybody else was healthy and thin and everything. She was like sticking to it. She was going on a regular basis for a really long time. And this, like, she called him like a gym bro, like this super jacked guy who lived in the gym, followed her out of the gym and came up to her car and knocked on her window. And she said like her heart dropped because she knew that she thought somebody was going to make fun of her or give her a hard time or whatever. And he said something to the effect of, I'm here all the time, and I notice that you're here all the time, and whether you feel like it's making a difference or not for you, I'm really proud of you. And she was like, whoa, and like started bawling just because somebody, who knows how to put in a lot of effort recognized her effort to improve herself and make herself healthier. And So I only say that to say that even somebody who doesn't feel like it's making a difference, it's obvious from the outside of you if you're trying to improve yourself, and trying to make a difference in your own life. So, yeah.
Those are some of the most inspiring stories to me, is when you see somebody. I wish I could remember his name. I have no idea what his name would be, but there was a person who was really crippled to the point where he thought like he couldn't even walk, and he couldn't walk, and it shows videos of him, and now he's some sort of like yogi guru who is like horrible, typical American, eating horrible foods, overweight, bad joints, and now he's some crazy guru. That story popped up. And I also follow a young woman in the Midwest who was 400 pounds, 500 pounds, and now she's at a reasonable weight, like 100 and change, and she just had an operation to remove all the skin, and she's just super sweet. And just following someone's story like that is so inspiring, because when they're that weight and they feel like that's it. I mean, it's like a rock. How are you going to change a rock? It seems like insurmountable. But someone that puts that much time and effort into it, and I see someone like her, and she's just every day saying very, very inspirational things to, she's probably speaking directly to people, women specifically, that are, extremely overweight. And it's just inspiring to see that she was able to do it, and she's nothing special. She basically is like, I'm just an average person that made some changes, and everybody could do that. And even though I don't have a challenge nearly as surmountable as that, it definitely inspires me to see these people that make these 180 life changes when it comes to their health. It's definitely doable.
Yeah, for sure. Well, David has to go in a little bit, and we still have to do the after show. So, unless you guys have any other thoughts on
I'm going to just stick with it.
You want to give before we go?
No, I'm just going to. What's that, Dick?
I said, any medical advice you want to give before we go?
Oh yeah. Don't cut towards you. Wear your safety gloves.
Yeah.
There you
go. Yeah. No, I'm going to stick with it, and I'll report my weight losses and my weight gains. I'll report that. So
cool.
Could follow along.
All right. Well, I want to thank our Patreon supporters, because they're awesome, and they allow us to get together and talk about being old and trying to not be unhealthy. So big thank you to them for all the support that they give us. It's awesome, and we're truly grateful. There's a top group of supporters that go above and beyond, and they are Crabtree Creative, Michael Manedjan, Warren Works, Jeff at the New Janky Workshop, Scott, I tried to say Scott and Dad at the same time, Scott at Dad It Yourself DIY, Sean Beckner, Odin Leathergoods, Rich at Low End Design, Chad's Custom Creations, Chad from Mancrafting, Works by Solo, Albers Woodworks, Corey Ward, and Nick Ryan. But also people like Matt Elkins. There's a lot of people, and people like Daryl Cooksey.
Thank you, guys.
There's a lot of people that support us, and we're really grateful. They all get the after show, which we're going to talk about other stuff. I'm going to tell you about my shop plans, I think.
All right.
I have plans. But the after show is a separate podcast. The link is on Patreon, so you can get a link to put it in your podcast player if you're a Patreon supporter at any level. So if you want to get that, you can go to patreon.com/makingit. You can help out the show. You can get the after show. You can send us messages and comments. And I know I don't reply to a lot of the comments that come in through there. I do if there's a question, but I will always pass those on to the other guys. So if you send David a link like somebody did last week, I send it on to him, and all that type of stuff. So we do read those. We're grateful for them. Big thanks to them. Now, do you guys have anything to recommend this week?
I have something good.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know where we watch it, because Rachel's in charge of the remote control. I have no idea how to turn on Apple TV or the TV or find a channel. I'm not signed into any of them on my own personal account. But there's a show called Manhunt, and it's about the assassination of Lincoln.
Oh,
I don't know where it is. I don't know. It's on streaming such and such. I don't know. But it is really good. I find
it like a documentary, or is it like a?
It's a serial show. It's a serial show about, and it's all characters. It's all casted, and it's really it seems historically accurate. Every once in a while, I stop and I check on Wikipedia versus who's this and who's that, and there's a little contentious personality conflict between Johnson, who was the vice president after Lincoln, and his Secretary of War. And like I Googled it, and it's like, yeah, they never liked each other. So it's funny how it manifests in the script. It is obviously scripted, but with an overtone of historical accuracy. And it's all period. It's really pretty incredible to like put yourself in that time. Starts with the assassination of Lincoln.
Apple TV. Looks like that's where it is.
Oh, it's Apple TV? I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
I thought it was on Amazon. I don't even know. Amazon Prime.
I like Lincoln stuff, so I may watch that.
Yeah, it's really good. You'll enjoy it if you watch it. It's really, really good. The third episode comes out Friday. They're doing it. They're not dropping the whole thing. They're doing it like old school TV.
Cool. What you got, David?
And I probably picked this a long time ago, but I'm going to do the podcast episode that kind of kicked all of this in gear. And it's a channel called Diary of a CEO, and it is with, I have no idea how to say her last name, but this lady named Jessie, she's the expert on sugar and glucose. So it's the scary new research on sugar and how they made you addicted to it. So yeah, next week we'll talk about making stuff.
Mine is a Instagram channel that I ran across this morning by accident. I really like that recently when I started looking for graffiti artists, I started getting more art in my Instagram feed. Just random artists, people painting things and drawing things and stuff. And it's really cool because I don't know how I would have ever come across them otherwise. This lady's name is Eleonora Kova. I'll put a link to it. She does these striped... She does paintings with stripes of paint. And they're really small and really precise. And I don't know how to explain it. Like she'll lay out a bunch of different colors in a stripe on a piece of paper and then use a squeegee to push that set of striped colors into a shape.
Yeah.
Is it very graphic?
It's very graphic.
Yeah.
And it is so cool. There's the one that caught my eye. It looks like you had a piece of fabric that with like 5 or 6 colors of really, 1/4-inch stripes. And you took that piece of fabric and you folded it so that it laid in different directions, but it's all paint. And I watched her do it, and I don't know how she does it. I don't know how she does it so precisely.
Is she using masking tape in between the dock tracks?
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah, okay, I've seen her, yeah.
Can you, I'm very impatient, and I don't want to wait till Friday. Can you drop that link in the chat?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting because, I talked about that guy, Otto Baum, the German artist that I like, and he does the stripes on the multiple paintbrushes. It's like that, but it's really tiny. It's on like cardstock on paper, small stuff. So it's the same kind of idea. So I guess there's something about that striped graphic thing that catches my eye or something.
Remind me in the after show to tell you about an artist, a very world famous artist who I might meet next week.
Oh, okay. I think probably the reason that I'm drawn to these is because they look possible.
And it's also, it's a pattern. You're getting repeating lines, and we are just drawn to patterns. At least I am.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I am. Huh. Interesting. Anyway, go check her out. She's got some really cool stuff. I'd love to get one of her like prints or something. All right, you guys got anything else?
A final thought,
David,
and I don't have his permission to say this, but I'm going to ask him later. So maybe this gets cut out. But on my Discord, Brent from Broken Antler Workshop said, I gotta say, listening to Making It and the I love you at the end has made me more conscious of telling my friends that I love them without it feeling weird. And
oh, that's sweet. I saw that.
And that was, I just love that. So I just want to end the show with that. Okay. And I'm going to get his permission to say that on air.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure Brent won't care. That's awesome.
That's really sweet.
I like that too. Cool. Well, we're going to stop there. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you.
And,
love you guys.
We'll catch you next time.
Love you. Say it back.
I love you.
I love you.
Oh.